In this video, I will tell you about 10 things that you should know about us Finns before moving to Finland. What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. If this is the first time we are meeting, my name is Oliver and I'm a master's student in economics at Aalto-University in Finland. And on this channel we talk about education and early career development, specifically here in Finland. So if you are new here, do consider subscribing. Before we jump into today's topic, let me thank Aalto-University for also sponsoring this video. As mentioned, I've done both my bachelor's and master's degrees at Aalto-University, and I really cannot recommend enough that you apply to Aalto in the next application period. More information about studying at Aalto through the links in the description box below. Alright, so what kind of things do you actually need to know about us Finns before you relocate to Finland? So the first thing to know about us Finns is that even though the old cliché might be somewhat true and we seem a bit distant and reserved, especially when meeting you for the first time, below the surface we are actually very much open to get into contact with new people and to build both personal and professional relationships with you guys. The fact that we might seem a bit introverted at first is mostly due to the Finnish culture of respecting one's personal space. I'll dive a bit deeper into this in just a second, but what's important to know is that keeping our distance at first is not meant to be disrespectful, but on the contrary, it's a show of respect towards you as an individual by not getting into your face before you have indicated that you are okay with it. The second thing to know about Finns is that you will get to know us better if you take the initiative. As I just said 2 seconds ago, we Finns might seem somewhat introverted. This can also make some people seem like we are not interested in getting to know you better. However, this is simply not so. Rather, you could say that we just warm up to new people just a bit slower compared to people from other cultures. And it will definitely help if you take the initiative. Waiting for us to be proactive towards you is most likely not the best strategy, as that will most likely take a bit too long for your taste. As an example, if you are coming here to study and you participate in some of the early semester parties, by the way, which I absolutely recommend even if you don't drink alcohol, you should definitely try to be proactive and seek out local students and, simply go and introduce yourself and thus show them that you are interested in getting to know them better. This, in my mind, is the fastest way to start getting to know people in Finland. Next up, we have something that I've already mentioned in a previous video, and it is that making real friends out of Finns can take quite a long time, but once you actually become friends with a Finnish person, what you can expect is a genuine and honest friendship that is not based on an exchange of benefits, but rather on mutual trust and respect. Again, as I just mentioned, we Finns warm up to new people quite slow, and in terms of relationships, this is mostly due to the fact that friendships in Finland are built on a strong mutual trust. So this means that you basically have to earn our trust and vice versa before we open up and really start developing a deeper personal connection. The next thing to know about Finns is that in the Finnish culture, physical contact is more limited than in many other, especially European cultures. In practice, this means that we, for example, don't practice kissing each other on the cheeks when greeting, and that hugging is mostly reserved for friends. However, a hearty handshake is always a safe option, both when introducing yourself for the first time or when meeting a good friend for a coffee. However, now that I mentioned the handshake, I am also obligated to mention that nothing is more awkward than a soggy handshake where the other party is only able to grab the fingers of the other person. This is especially true in a business setting where a bad handshake can literally ruin your first impression, and I really recommend practicing this if you are not sure how to do it properly. Yeah, I know that most of you guys are currently face-palming yourself really hard over this no-brainer, but trust me, it happens a lot. So the next topic on this list applies to everything we do in Finland, and it is the famous Finnish personal space. So the problem with this concept of personal space is that it applies to so many things that it's actually quite hard to explain. But if I try to simplify what it means, I would say that maintaining some physical distance to other people is not about trying to isolate or disrespect you, but rather it is actually more about showing respect towards you as an individual by not invading your personal space unnecessarily. A classic example of this is when traveling in a bus. You can usually notice that people always seek an empty row of seats before considering sitting next to someone else. The same goes when standing at a bus stop where people keep their distance even if it's raining like hell. In addition to the previous examples, the same goes to, for example, when visiting a cafe or eating at a lunch place. For a Finnish person, it is completely normal to have lunch alone, whether it be at work or perhaps at a university restaurant. Sometimes it's just better for us to zone out and to have our own moment without any social interaction. This does not mean that you have to feel bad about us, and sitting alone does not mean that we don't have any friends or we are sad, but rather it's just our way of taking a breather or a break, to put it into other words. Again, another example this applies to is our homes. So in Finland, our homes are basically our castles, where we can feel secure and where we can relax without anyone intruding our peace and quiet. So it is also a space that should not be invaded without warning, and this means that it is not that normal for people to show up at one's door unannounced. Rather, if you want to hang out with someone, it is more considerate to actually make an arrangement or at least call first. Alright, next up, this is nothing revolutionary, but it's still good to know. In Finland, almost everyone speaks good English, and you can get really far without learning a single word of Finnish. Anywhere you go, especially in the larger cities, if you need any assistance, you can be sure that the first person you bump into speaks good enough English to help you out. Even though almost everyone does speak fluent English, it might not seem like that at first because of something that is almost a national trait, which is the fear of failure. So many people have this almost instinctive fear of looking goofy because they think that their English is not good enough. And this is why some might feel a bit hesitant to use English at first. But as I've already mentioned, if you take the initiative and just keep up the discussion, they will soon warm up and this fear of failure will ease out. In my experience, the first time you might experience some real issues with not speaking Finnish is when looking for a job, especially when looking for a part-time job in the service sector. So most of these jobs require Finnish, as the majority of the customer base is actually Finnish. However, here, the further you are in your education and the more specialized positions you apply for, the less likely it is that Finnish skills are required in order to do well. Alright, next on the list is the fact that we Finns don't really like to oversell ourselves, but rather most of the time we more or less undersell ourselves. This can be often seen, for example, when giving a Finnish person a compliment like, "Hey dude, you're really ripping the guitar. I guess that you've been playing it for a really long time." To which one would appropriately reply, yeah, thanks. I've been practicing for like 12 years or so, so I guess I'm getting okay at it. I'm sure that you are much better at it than me. I know, it's funny, but that's just the way we are. So this cultural trait is also seen a lot in different business settings. For example, when a Finnish person applies for a job and he or she is asked about their, let's say, technical skills, they will absolutely not oversell themselves. And when they say they are proficient at something, you can absolutely trust that they really are. Of course, it is also good to know that being humble and not overselling oneself means that we also expect that from other people as well. And seeing someone brag about themselves or their accomplishments is in general just seen as douchey. So the next thing to know about Finns is that we are in general brought to be honest and direct, and sometimes even too honest, to be quite frank. What this means is that we like to tell things as they are rather than beating around the bush. If things are good, we are going to tell you that they're good. On the other hand, if things aren't really going smoothly, we will most likely tell you so. So at face value, this kind of honesty and directness might not seem like a bad thing. You know, of course, everyone likes honest people who tell things as they are, but at times this might actually not be the most optimal way to go, as some moments in life might just require a bit of diplomacy and discreetness in order to get your message through. The thing is, we aren't really good at that, and there might come times when you think that this kind of Finnish directness can feel just a bit rude. However, as with everything else on this list, please don't take this personally. This kind of directness is just embedded in the Finnish culture, and being honest and direct is actually our way of being respectful by not wasting your time by going around in circles and avoiding telling the truth. Alright, next up we have something simple but still good to know, and that is that when spending time with a Finnish person, silence is actually okay, and it is not considered as awkward as you might think. This is actually something that many socially active people can find very difficult to adjust to, and yes, this might feel very, very awkward at first, but you will get used to it over time. So there are many reasons for us being more silent type of people, but I think a good way to see this is by understanding how much we Finns actually appreciate peace and quiet. So considering that Finland is already a rather quiet place, still one of our favorite ways to relax is to drive to our lakeside cabins in the middle of nowhere just to enjoy the absolute silence of nature. This kind of appreciation of quietness and personal space is embedded deep into us as people, and here it is considered completely normal. However, this also has to do with the last topic on the list, which is that we are not good at chit-chat. So small talk is a topic that is usually not seen as a strength of the Finnish people. We are simply not good at it, and we are very much known, especially in the business circles, of being people who appreciate when you go straight to the point. But you know, of course, when getting to know people and when building personal relationships, small talk is a necessary part of the game, but just know that we aren't that good at it, and it can be one of the leading causes for these long, awkward silences when no one really knows what to say. However, as said previously, the remedy here is for you to take the initiative and try to build up the conversation. You know, actually the funny thing is that most Finns are really good listeners, and while we might not have that much to say or to contribute to the conversation, we love to hear about new things and to learn about new cultures and how they relate to Finland. This also means that comparing your culture to ours is also a great icebreaker with new people. Alright, that is it. This was a bit of an information dump, but keeping these things in mind when moving to Finland will not only help you build relationships easier, but they will also help you understand what goes inside our little heads. So, what do you think about these topics? Do you agree or disagree? Tell me in the comments so that we can have a discussion. Anyways, that is it for this video. If you found this video interesting, do give it a thumbs up and share it with a friend who might be interested in the topic. Also, if you didn't like what I had to say, the thumbs down button works as well. And if you have anything to ask about this or any other topic related to studying or working in Finland, write them down in the comment section down below, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks again for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.